I didn't become a millionaire by working harder. I became a millionaire by tricking my brain. You see, in 2021, I acquired a 7-figure marketing agency, not because I had it all figured out, not because I was ready, but because I trained my brain to operate like someone who was ready. And today, I'm going to show you the exact mechanism in terms of how your brain is currently building your financial reality automatically without your input, and the 5-step system that I use to reprogram that autopilot from the inside. This isn't about working harder. It's about who your brain believes that you are. Let me show you what that means. I want to go back to a specific moment in 2021. This is where I had the opportunity to buy this 7-figure marketing agency. I was looking at the numbers and the numbers worked for me. This was a real opportunity. It made total sense for me to make this purchase. But here's the thing. My old identity was screaming that I wasn't ready. Like, who do you think you are? What if you break it? What if you collapse and lose the entire business? What if you lose all your money? What if your record, in terms of your financial record and your credit, what if it takes a hit? All of these different things were going through my mind. And I noticed something in that moment that I hadn't noticed before. The fear wasn't about the deal itself. The fear was about identity. The hesitation wasn't financial. It was neurological. I wasn't afraid of the agency. I was afraid of becoming someone that I'd never been before. And through this whole process, I had a buddy of mine that I was working with, and for this example, we'll call him Andre. And so Andre, he was genuinely talented, strong business sense, strong understanding of the business mechanics, acumen, and had real capabilities. The kind of clarity that you get in a conversation with, and you come away thinking like, man, this guy has it all figured out. Like, this guy is the perfect business person. The skills were there, the vision was clear, he had done the work. And every time a wealth level opportunity came across his desk, he found a reason for it to not be right. The timing was off, the market was uncertain, he needed more information, or he needed somebody to verify and tell him that this was a good deal. And he came to me one day and he asked me, I get all these opportunities that are coming my way, because I know business, I understand it from an intellectual level, I get it, all of these different things, but every time a deal comes my way, I never step into it. Like, I never take it on. And I asked him one simple question. What identity is your brain running when you see these opportunities? You see, your brain doesn't follow goals. It follows your identity. So if you see yourself as somebody who takes on these opportunities, who takes on these deals, who finds reasons to move and to act, then you're going to be in alignment with that. You're actually going to take those actions. But if you're not, then you're going to have all these deals and all these opportunities come your way, and you're not going to take any action. You're going to convince yourself as to reasons why you're not ready yet, and that you should wait, and the economy, and this and that, for reasons for not taking any action. Because for Andre, he didn't have a strategy problem. He had an identity mismatch problem. His brain was filtering every opportunity through an identity that had never been updated to match the life that he was building towards. And here's what I had to be brutally honest about. When I stood at the edge of that acquisition, I had two identities running simultaneously. The one that could see the 7-figure opportunity in the future, and the one that had never been there before. Your brain will always defer to the identity that it knows, what's familiar, not the future that you're building towards. Because to build a millionaire life, you have to first build a millionaire identity. And I'm going to show you exactly how. Let me show you the mechanism, because once you see this, you can't unsee it. This is how your financial reality is actually being constructed without your awareness. So let's create a little board here, little flow. Okay. Let's put it right here. Okay. This is the flow. You have a thought. Then it goes into an emotion. Then this goes into an identity. Then it goes into behavior. Then income. And then this goes into your lifestyle. Okay, so let's go through this from the beginning. So your thoughts, if you have like scarcity-based thoughts, then you're going to have safety-seeking behavior. Like you want to be nice and safe, warm and cozy, and because you feel that there's limitation, there's scarcity, there's lack, and so you want to just hold on to and grasp everything that you have. And then with emotion, if you're constantly in a state of fear, then you're going to be consistently not allowing yourself to take action on something, because when you feel an emotion of fear, it's going to tell your nervous system and overall your body and everything that, whoa, let's stop here. Let's get back to safety so that whatever it is that we're wanting to do, okay, is within the boundaries that we've set previously. Because if we try to step out of our comfort zone, of our boundaries, we're going to have risk and it's a threat, right? And here's the part that most people miss about emotion. Emotions are not a response to your circumstances or events or whatever's happening. It's a response of your identity's interpretation of those events, circumstances, whatever it may be that happened to you that made you feel a certain way, right? And then we go to identity. This is the master variable here, most important one. This is what essentially creates everything, in the sense of this is essentially the main driver, right? So your identity, if you see yourself as someone who is not successful and who is not a successful entrepreneur, business owner, capable of handling and running a 7-figure marketing agency, well, then guess what? Then you're not going to take that behavior. You're going to take the behavior of no action, because it's unsafe. It's fear-based. There's risk. There's hesitancy, uncertainty. And so our behavior is going to put us in the lowest level threat. And it's not going to take that action, right? And then for me, if I would to have listened to that, then I wouldn't have made that purchase with that 7-figure agency, even though I honestly, in reality, wasn't necessarily ready for it, in the sense of like, but then who dictates who is ready? But in the sense of, I kind of didn't even know what I was doing. Like, I had just enough information to make the decision, and the rest of it was more of just like intuition, gut feel, and just like, I'm going to take this risk and I'm going to figure it out. Like, that was really what was driving me through that whole thing, is I knew just enough, but I focused in on the identity of like, who is that type of person? Who is that individual, that version of me that would make this decision, would take the action, would figure it out, and would just ultimately make this happen. And so by thinking from that perspective, right, from that identity, that allowed me to take the behavior that needed to be done in terms of saying yes to the opportunity, going through with it, because there were some hiccups along the way as well. Like in terms of some of my financing fell through. I wasn't able to pull through all the funds that I initially had thought. And then I was able to work out a deal with the seller, and we still pushed it through. And then it was a matter of like, do you want to do this or not? And I said yes, with the thought of like, I'm going to figure it out. And here's the thing about your income. Your income matches your identity. And so because I had seen myself as someone who was a successful 7-figure entrepreneur, I was able to take action from this identity, which then increased my income day one. For Andre's situation, it was one of those where he was putting in real effort, and the effort itself wasn't the variable. The identity that effort was coming from was the actual variable itself. This is why nothing changes when you only change the strategy, because this whole loop, this whole chain here starts with the thought, and it should be starting with your identity. This should be number one, okay? It should be your identity here that's driving this whole chain, this whole system and process here, okay? Because Your identity is going to dictate all of this so that it's in the proper order, so that you can actually get your desired outcome, your reality that you actually want. Because ultimately, you don't build a millionaire life, you build a millionaire identity, and the life follows. And here's the exact system I used to do that. So let me go ahead and erase the board, and I want to walk through the worth framework. This is a framework that I developed to show you how you can become a millionaire. So let me go ahead and erase the board here, and we'll walk through the worth framework. Okay, so let's go over the worth. And this is an acronym. This is the millionaire brain framework. So let's go over each one individually. Let's start with step 1, W, right? The future self identity. Because here's the thing, before your brain can be reprogrammed, it needs a specific target, not a goal, not an outcome, an identity. And so we want to ask ourselves, who is the version of me making millionaire decisions? Specifically, you want to step into that in terms of seeing through their eyes, thinking from their perspective, from their lens, seeing the world. And that's going to help you really come to an understanding of what that looks like for you and for that identity. And the key thing here is that you don't want to be aspirational. You want to get very specific. You want to get crystal clear. And you want to ask, what does this identity, okay? What does this identity believe about money? Does it believe that money is abundant, is a tool, is a resource, is something that is gained and accumulated from value exchange, from providing products and services, from helping others get what they want so that you can get what you want? Right? Think about that. And then think about, what do they think about opportunity? In terms of, do they have things that happen to them in life that are quote unquote negative or unfortunate, and then they see them as, instead of problems, but as challenges? And then do they see those challenges as opportunities? And opportunities in terms of them coming my way all the time, right? Like that identity of, I am somebody who has a lot of opportunities come my way because that's just who I am. And I put out the energy of someone who is always making things happen, collaborating with people, putting out good positive energy. And so opportunities always seem to find me. Also think about, like, how do they respond to fear? Like, what are the things that they go through in their mind when something comes across their life that is unfortunate, that is a little bit unnerving, right? That may cause a little bit of fear. How are they seeing that, viewing that? How are they perceiving it? And what meaning are they attaching to that? And like, let's say you're perhaps going through a specific situation where you need some guidance, assistance. Think about from their lens, like, what action, decision would they take for my current situation that I'm facing right now? When I was standing at the edge of the 7-figure marketing agency, I did this precisely. And for me, it was almost unconsciously. I did it unknowingly. Like, I thought about it and I was like, man, 2-3 years from now, that version of me who had bought this agency and is successful and is running it and is doing all these great things, like, what would they do here? Would they make the move? Would they hesitate? And so all of those different thoughts were going through my mind, and I was doing this unconsciously without even realizing it. And so now I get to lay this out for you very precisely on the board so that you can use this as a system for you to be able to make these decisions and ultimately become a millionaire if that's what you want to do. And one of the things that I would always do as well is I would write down like personal identity statements. And I did this a lot previously in terms of right when I was acquiring the 7-figure marketing agency, I would think about it and I would be like, the identity of this person, what do they look like in terms of their decisions, their actions? I'm somebody who does X, Y, and Z. I'm somebody who takes risks, calculated risks, and I acquire income producing assets and I make them better, right? All of these different things that I would write out and I would use for me. And the reason why I did this is because I knew how powerful this was in terms of writing it down. And the big thing here is that it was doing something neurologically for me. It was imprinting into my mind, into my nervous system that I am someone who does A, B, and C, okay? And it wasn't like goal outcomes or goals that I had where I was like, yes, I want to buy a 7-figure agency. I want to do this. I want to do that. That's great. But identity statements override and overrule all of that. And a big component of this in terms of the goals versus identity is that the goals are in the future. Identity is now. It's your embodiment. It's what's here right now that is experiencing. And so with the identity here, you want to write it very specifically, present tense, and grounded in real evidence of what you're capable of. Because an undefined identity always defaults to the old one. Let's go to the O. So this is where you want to override old emotional patterns. And let me write this out in terms of the contrast so you see how it's currently running and how you want it to run. So your old identity experiences fear, then that goes into paralysis. You are operating from an old identity and you experience fear in terms of like making a decision, doing something that's going to obviously benefit you and become a better version of you. In my situation, in my sense, I had an old identity. I was running and I was fearful of what could have happened, what could, in terms of I can lose the business, I could close it down, I can get embarrassed, I can look foolish, all of these different thoughts. And I could easily just be paralyzed and not do anything because that's better in terms of not ruffling any feathers, in terms of my internal operating system, my nervous system, so that I could just be safe and sound, right? But the millionaire identity goes into certainty, and then it goes into execution. And certainty in the sense of at least, and this is the biggest thing, at least knowing that you know that you are capable and able to figure things out no matter what. It doesn't mean that it's certainty in terms of like, this is the perfect deal. This is exactly what I want it to be. The numbers are, precisely on the dot, on the dime, on the penny. None of that. Because all of those are just little details and they're important. But I'm referring to certainty in the sense of understanding and knowing and acknowledging that you have the ability to figure it out, regardless of what comes your way. And here's the override mechanism in terms of overriding this emotional pattern, right? You want to notice when an emotion happens to you, when you get an emotional spike, when you experience fear, uncertainty, scarcity, whatever it may be that is negative, right? You then name it. And actually naming it creates separation. And so you never want to be connecting whatever you're experiencing in terms of an emotion to you as you being that. Like you're not a fearful person. You're not a stressful person. You're not a depressed person. You may be experiencing fear, stress, depression, all of those different things, those emotions, but you are never that. You're never a fearful person. Okay. And so you notice it, you name it, This actually creates separation from you and the actual thing. And then from here, you return to your identity, but to your new identity, to the millionaire identity, okay? The millionaire identity, they have such a strong signal that something happens, they feel it, the emotion, the experience it, whatever it is, they notice it, they name it. Hey, I'm experiencing fear right now. It makes sense. It's a situation that is quite fearful. I get it, I understand that. Feel it, acknowledge it, separate it from yourself. And then this returns back to your identity of the millionaire identity. And I remember the final negotiations for the 7-figure marketing agency, I really felt like a lot of my old patterns were being activated. I kept getting reasons as to why this was a mistake, and so many different reasons about why I'm not ready, why this opportunity, can't work, and why I should just play it safe and look for a different opportunity. But the thing is, opportunities are always going to be there. They're always going to come and go. And it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to take this on. And it all came down to the identity. And the identity said that I am someone who moves when the fundamentals are sound. Because the fundamentals were sound, like the deal made sense on paper. It was a great opportunity. Everything was in the right place. And it was just a matter of me pulling the trigger, because there are so many reasons why not to do the deal. And if I would have waited probably longer, I likely would have just convinced myself, you know what, this is too much. I'm just going to not do this deal at all. Because here's the thing, your old identity is always going to fight for survival. It's always going to want to be there because it's trying to protect itself, and it's trying to protect you from experiencing fear, doubt, threats, whatever it may be. But you don't negotiate with it. You override it. And here's something that Andre discovered in week 3, that the override doesn't have to win and work perfectly every single time. It just has to activate. Every time you notice the old pattern, you've essentially interrupted it. And that's the first data point that your brain receives and acknowledges as, you know what, something's off here. And that in and of itself is movement, it's progress. It's moving in the right direction. Okay, so let's go to number 3. This is where we want to reinforce with bold micro actions. Because every single bold micro action that you consistently do is telling your brain that we are this person now. This is how identity gets installed, through behavioral evidence. Because small, bold micro actions compound your identity faster than if you were trying to do a massive achievement. Because the brain is counting votes, and every aligned action is a vote for that new identity. And the brain accepts identity based on accumulated votes, not on one dramatic moment. And so this is where you close the client that you've been afraid to pitch, take a meeting that you've been putting off, make a financial decision one level above where you're currently at. All of these different types of actions that get you to move in the direction of your new identity, where you are still trying to be in that comfort zone of your current identity, but then your new identity is the one that actually is taking these bold micro actions, right? And here's the thing, you want it to be bold, yes, but at the end of the day, even small, minor micro actions day in and day out will compound over time. So yes, you'd like to, in a sense, take these big, huge, bold actions, but it's really about just taking action in and of itself that is leading in the direction of your new identity. And for Andre, I gave him one instruction for week 1, and I simply told him to take one minor micro action, financial action, that his new identity would be taking and that his old identity would be avoiding. And this is where he reached out to a potential client that he had been talking to for a while, but was kind of on the fence and didn't know whether he should reach out and didn't want to overstep the relationship. And so he reached out, and lo and behold, he was able to sign that client. And here's the thing, that single vote of confidence, of action that he took I was aligned with this new identity that he wanted, was a massive, massive, huge leap. And it was more than if he would have just, done 6 months of journaling, of affirmations, of vision boards, right? Because all of those are great and they're important, but you can have all of those. But if you don't take any action, then the nervous system, the identity, won't take into effect, will not take over. The brain believes what it experiences. Give it that experience. Okay, so let's go to step number 4. This is the T. You want to train the nervous system. And here's the thing. Most people try to think their way into making millionaire decisions. But here's the problem. When the stakes are really high and you're left to make a decision and you're trying to think like a millionaire, your nervous system is always going to take over and override all of that. Whether you wanting to think from the millionaire, perspective and version, if your nervous system isn't in the right place, you're going to feel like it's a huge, big mistake. You're going to feel fear, hesitation, uneasiness, tightness in your chest, all of these different things that you're going to feel, which are not going to allow you to take any action. You see, certainty is a nervous system state, not a mindset. Millionaire decisions are not made from survival. They're made from calm, clarity, and conviction. And that emotional baseline is trained. It's not inherited. And so here are 3 things that you can do to train your nervous system. Let's go with number 1. Let me erase this here a little bit. So go like this, go back. So number 1 here, future self rehearsal. And this is huge. Every single day, what you need to do is take 5 minutes and make this be very, very deliberate. Make it be very deliberate in the sense of 5 minutes, and you're making decisions as the future self identity. And it's not about visualizing here in the sense of like feeling good about it. You want to rehearse the actual physical state of certainty. So your system builds a reference point for it. So you're feeling the emotion of certainty of like, you know what? Yeah, I got it. It is what it is. And think about like maybe even different times in your life that you can use as evidence to help you with this. Like think of a time where you felt certain and you stood up a certain way with your chest out, shoulders back, and you felt good. Like, yeah, I got this. Maybe it could be a sports situation where you hit a home run, scored a touchdown, scored a basket, whatever it may be. Use something that you performed really well and you were certain on, your outcome, or certain on the feeling of, you know what, I did good here. I did a great thing. So practice feeling that every single day for at least 5 minutes. And let's go with number 2 here. Evidence stacking. Huge. Now, this is where you reflect upon different opportunities that you've had, that you have acted from your new identity, right? From the millionaire identity, from that future version of you. Think about and reflect upon those specific situations, those actions, those decisions that you've taken, so that that could be used as evidence for your nervous system that you are actually that person. Think about this as like a file folder that you have there on like your desktop for your computer, because we are essentially operating systems, computers running with software, right? And so think about that as like you have a file folder on the side, and all of that is your evidence of your new identity, so that you can pull that up at any given time. Okay, so let's go to number 3. This is where you want to shrink the decision window. And this is also super important here, because the longer that you wait to make a decision, the more that the nervous system is going to activate your old identity, your old patterns, because it's going to go back to what's familiar. But if you are acting from your new identity and you're making decisive action, very quick, like maybe before it took you a day, but now it takes you 2 to 3 hours, right? Like that speed is doing so much for you in terms of helping you make faster decisions, but then also building up the evidence and then giving you more of the rehearsal, right? So that you can think about all those times that you've made decisions and that you are making decisions from your future self. So shorten this up. Don't take super long to make a decision. Cut that window down, because speed is a symptom of certainty. And by the time that the final 7-figure marketing agency negotiation happened for me, I had been doing all of this. And again, as I mentioned, I was doing all of this like unconsciously, unknowingly, because I've gone through a huge personal development journey myself, read a bunch of books, done all this stuff. And I found out through a lot of self-awareness that I had been running a lot of these patterns. And that's how I've come up with a lot of these different frameworks and systems and processes, because myself, I had been running these unconsciously. And then now with the power of AI and all these different tools, I've been able to bring this to my actual conscious awareness and bring this out so that I can share it with the world and share it with you. So I was doing all of this unconsciously and was able to make the acquisition happen because I was training my nervous system so that when I made that decision, I was just kind of like, it was another day in the neighborhood because I had already done all of the work previously. Certainty isn't confidence. It's a conditioned state. And so you want to condition it deliberately. Okay, so let's go to the final step here, which is the H. This is where you want to hold the identity until reality matches. And this is a step that most people abandon right before the shift happens, because reality doesn't match new identity immediately. There's a little bit of lag. It matches eventually if you hold. You have to hold the identity. Think about anything in life, nature, existence. Think about plants. You plant a seed. It's a small little tiny seed. And then you plant it, you water it, you take care of it, you nurture it, all of this. And then it grows into this huge, beautiful plant or tree or whatever it is. That takes time, right? But you can't expect something to happen just right overnight. It's the law of just nature and just existence, right? Like things are going to take time to actually reflect in the external world. But internally, you've made that shift, you made that change. And so you'll start to notice small little things happen for you. That thing that used to bother you before now doesn't really bother you. Or it used to maybe give you a spike of like cortisol, emotion, negative feeling, fear, uneasiness. Now it's just kind of like you catch yourself and you're like, oh, here it is again. But you don't let it affect you anymore. And over time, it doesn't even affect you at all because it's done its course. It's ran its course, just like a tree is planted and it grows over time. And then years go by and then it's this beautiful tree. But it had to go through this whole process of growth. Think about infants, like it's all throughout nature. We are born helpless, we grow up, we have years go by, we become toddlers, kids, and then teenagers, then we become adults, all of this whole natural progression of things. It's never immediate and don't expect it to be. And for this specifically, there's a gap between the moment that you install the new identity and the moment that your external reality reorganizes around it. And I get it. The gap is uncomfortable. And we can even draw this out here. So let's go like this. Okay. We'll put it in here. So the old reality, and then here is the gap. And then here's your new identity. This gap is real, but it's necessary, right? Think of the gap there as like a tree being planted and it's going through its growth spurt, okay? It's necessary, it's all through nature, it's natural. And if you can expect it and understand it, acknowledge it, and then accept it for what it is, you're bound to get to that next level, no matter what. And for Andre, he hit this gap around week 6. You see, the actions were happening. The identity was in place. The pitches were going out, but the financial reality hadn't reorganized yet. And this is interesting because I'll give you a little example. A nephew of mine who was in the real estate space, he was brand new to real estate a few years back. And I remember he would put in all this work, do all this stuff, and get all these opportunities and deals, but none of them closed. Like 4 or 5 months went by and he was like, man, what is going on here? And then it's so funny because he was doing all of this work and then he literally almost quit. And then like 5 months in like a couple weeks, he got a phone call. Hey, I want you to represent me for this house that I want to sell. Boom. 5 months in, he got his first deal. And then that led to another deal. And then a deal that came through from him putting in the work 5 months ago, 3-4 months ago, came in. And it started to have this trickle effect, right? This huge momentum that he had built in the very beginning foundational stages, that then he was getting and bearing the fruits of his labor now, 5 or 6 months, 8 months down the road. So it's one of those things where you cannot expect it to be automatic. So let's go back to the board here and let's reiterate this. Let's kind of recap this, okay? So we want to write the future self identity. Write this out in terms of who is the version of me making millionaire decisions specifically. What does this identity believe about money, opportunity, right? Override the old emotional patterns. This is where you are operating from certainty and taking action, execution, and then you're noticing emotions that are happening, and then you're separating yourself, right? You are creating distance. And then you want to reinforce with bold micro actions. Now, this also can be micro actions as a whole in terms of small little minor actions, right? Whether it's like you actually taking a small little action of like reaching out to somebody, or actually going to a networking event that previously you wouldn't have, right? All these little things add up over time. Train the nervous system, future self-rehearsal, evidence stacking, shrink the decision window. And then H for hold the identity until reality matches. Remember, the gap here is just the natural process and progress of you stepping into your new identity. There's always a time window, a time gap there between how you are operating and how you see yourself internally to actually having that manifest itself externally. And so this is the word system. It's installed through action and repetition, not just belief. Andre couldn't step into the opportunity, not because he lacked capability. It was because the identity that the brain was loyal to didn't include it. And I almost didn't close that acquisition. Not because the fundamentals weren't there. It was because the identity that I had been running for most of my life had never lived at that level before. Here's what I need you to understand. Your brain is not working against you. It's working perfectly for the identity that it's been given. Change the identity and the brain has no choice but to produce a new reality. You're not tricking yourself. You're reprogramming the system that was installed before you knew better. Write the identity, override the code, reinforce it with action, train your nervous system, and hold it until reality matches. You don't chase millionaire status. You become the version of you who creates it.